Welcome and good afternoon. Welcome to our North-South Post-Primary Schools Civic Action Programme. And it is the showcase for kind of the final for the students, just to present what they've been doing throughout the year. This initiative is a joint initiative between Politics and Action, which is based in Belfast, and also the Glencree Centre for Reconciliation in Wicklow. This is the second year of the programme, and this year we have 4 schools. We have 2 from Northern Ireland and 2 from the Republic. We have Ballyclare High School in County Antrim. We have Dominican College in Belfast, Loretto in Milford, and we have Lutterellstown Community College in Dublin. So throughout the year, the students have been engaging with each other and also speaking to different ministers north and south of the border to kind of think about and question some of the things that they have concerns or topics they'd like to have worked on throughout the year. So the kind of 4 topics that they initially came up with were mental health, COVID, Brexit, and identity. So the identity question, north and south, will mean kind of in a way different things. So you have, whether it be to do with, orange and green up here, or whether it's to do with, migrants and the new Irish in the Republic. So it's interesting, and we've had some great conversations. And over the course of the year, the students have had a chance from the 4 schools to talk to 4 other ministers. So they had, then they could ask questions. So they spoke to Leo Varadkar on Taoiseach, Colin Eastwood, who is with the SDLP, Mike Nesbitt, who's an MLA with the Ulster Unionist Party, and Roger O'Gorman, who's Minister for Children. So today we're delighted, Minister Foley, that you're able to join us. And the format is really just for the students, kind of just to talk a little bit about their school, and then they'll tell us some of the learnings or the thoughts that they came up with when questioning the ministers, and what kind of what came to mind, and what sort of learnings they had. So that's sort of the format. And then afterwards, if you have any thoughts or questions for them, certainly we'd like you to ask, if you're welcome. But before the students begin, is there anything that you would like to say, just to start?
Well, thank you, Trace. Just to say that I am absolutely delighted to join you today for the North-South School Civic Action Programme. I want to celebrate and acknowledge the tremendous amount of work that has been ongoing for the past while as this programme has continued. And I particularly want to acknowledge that, it's not been easy, I suppose, as we all journey through COVID. And particular congratulations, if you like, for reimagining and reorganizing and recalibrating once again, so that this program could actually continue, that it didn't have to be paused. And I think that tenacity is a great tribute, I suppose, to really what I would only expect from students and all those who engage with students, because we've seen it across a whole number of different levels in the education sector, and I think there's tremendous credit due for that. I particularly want to acknowledge all those involved in the project, in particular the Glencree Centre, whom I know who have been for the last 40 years really doing such fantastic work in terms of promotion of peace and reconciliation, and are really internationally renowned for that work. And I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge also Politics and Action, who have really given an opportunity for students to come together in a very structured manner, but to exchange ideas and thoughts and opinions and wisdoms and experiences, and so that collectively we're enhanced because of that. And of course, a particular thank you to the students and to the teachers. And just in terms of the teachers, I want to acknowledge that it's very important on the ground in schools that you do have leadership that will open up opportunities for students. So a particular acknowledgement to school leadership and to the teachers and school communities who have done that, but most of all to the students whom I know have given so much of their time and their talent and their wisdom. And I think that's important. I know myself, coming from, I suppose, a teaching background, that I frequently learned an awful lot more from my students than I would think perhaps that my students learned from me. And that's why I'm so, I suppose, enthused to have the opportunity today to engage with you. I think the skill set and the experience that you bring as the future leaders in our communities is so important, and that's why I'm very appreciative of the forum being offered to you, but more especially that you would actually take up the opportunity. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for all of the work that has gone up to this point. And I'm very, very honoured as Minister for Education to have the opportunity to really just to hear, almost to eavesdrop on all of your learning and wisdom. And so thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Foley. Yes, I think one of the advantages, I suppose, of the kind of COVID has been maybe access to politicians that, like yourselves, who we may not have been able to have that access for. Normally, under normal circumstances, the students would have met in person, and we would have travelled to Dáil Éireann and then also to Stormont, and then given these final presentations there. But I think, you know, despite everything, they've done really well, and we were able to kind of luckily meet people, ministers that they wouldn't have normally. So just to, I suppose the format will be the students will present a little bit about their school. In most cases, it's going to be two students representing their school and talking a little bit. One will tell us about the school and the other will kind of talk about findings. So we're going to start off in County Donegal, God's country, with Milford, Loretto and Milford, and we have Sinead and Alan.
Majority Catholic school, interdenominational. We have a mainly Christian ethos, and we're a fairly diverse school with people from different ethnic backgrounds, such as Middle Eastern and Eastern European. The programme gave us a great insight into different perspectives on common issues. It was a great experience to be able to interview such a wide range of high-profile politicians from North and South, both from Unionist and Nationalist backgrounds. The responses to our questions, as well as hearing from the other schools, has definitely opened our minds and broadened our viewpoints. I personally feel that the Q&A session with SDLP leader Colm Eastwood epitomised all that is great about this initiative. I was pleasantly surprised by his laid-back manner and casual nature. It was really refreshing to have a politician engaged in relaxed, honest, free-flowing dialogue rather than scripted lines that we have become accustomed to hearing from politicians in the media. It was a great privilege getting to ask him a direct question, and I think he is a great representative of what republicanism could look like in a future shared Ireland.
Sinead.
The use of video call was almost a benefit for us, seeing as it would be much more difficult to organise these events in person. But hopefully in the future, this programme will allow for these face-to-face conversations to happen. The experience speaking to politicians from both sides of the border and from different parties was an eye-opening experience to the entire class. In particular, we thought Mike Nesbitt was very interesting. We are often used to hearing the hard line of unionism in the media, and it was great to hear a representative of the middle ground and moderate unionism. He made a positive impression on us with his clear compassion, reasonableness, and ideals for peace for all people on the island of Ireland. Many classmates had agreed Minister O'Gorman's comments on homophobia in both Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland was interesting, especially by the members of the LGBT community in our class. We do think that Ireland is not as progressive as Northern Ireland on the LGBTQ+ issue. They're both more the same. We would like to hear his points on how we plan to ban conversion therapy ourselves in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sinead, and thank you, Alan. And our next school is Ballyclare High School in County Antrim. We have Alan Montgomery and Sarah Wilson. Hello.
So at Ballyclare, we're a predominantly Protestant school. Our school environment is relatively limited in terms of diversity due to the rural location of Ballyclare. However, we found that hearing from different communities and schools as part of the project helped us to understand issues which both sides of the community feel strongly about and generally expand our own viewpoint. Personally, I found Leo Varadkar and Roderick O'Gorman's speech particularly interesting in regards to climate change and the plans that are in place to combat it in future and to support young people with coping with mental health issues brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic and when they are looking for jobs and going to university due to the damage done to education. Hearing about the views of both Southern and Northern ministers in regards to Brexit was also very rewarding to just hear different perspectives about that, really. So, yeah.
We chose to focus on the issues of mental health. Not enough has been done to help children experiencing mental health issues brought about by the COVID-19 crisis. Various schools have a strong focus on combating this problem, and so we asked multiple questions regarding this issue as we feel we have gained a deeper understanding of the matter. For example, being able to speak to Leo Varadkar and ask him about the Irish government's response, and subsequently being able to voice our own opinions on potential solutions to the problem was a deeply satisfying experience and helped us understand more. Moreover, we feel that we've made the government itself more aware of how pressing issues, pressing we believe these issues to be, and so by sharing our views and concerns have rendered them better to be able to tackle these problems effectively in the near future. We also chose to focus on the issue of COVID-19. We were able to hear from the Deputy First Minister on their countermeasures and responses to COVID-19, and it was an interesting experience as it's currently causing a massive disruption within Northern Ireland. We as young students are concerned for our well-being, and we're eager to hear about the support we will receive from the future in the government over the next few years as we sit our A-levels and seek entry into university, as well as the jobs prospects that may be available to us in the future. And what the project meant to us, being able to voice my opinion to Leo Varadkar made me feel validated and like I had a voice within politics. So him asking me what my view was on mental health was a good way for me to voice my opinion and him to take in a young person's account of how they feel towards the issue. The project was very well organised and designed in such a way to build a bridge between the north and south of the country, especially in the face of the violence going on between the two communities in Belfast recently. We thoroughly enjoyed the programme and will be eager to participate in future cross-cultural events due to the North-South initiative. We particularly enjoyed the opportunity to hear the views of different ministers from different parts of the island in regards to issues which both affect Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, such as LGBT+. We found the opportunity to question ministers ourselves rewarding, and this has enhanced our confidence when engaging with opportunities to involve ourselves in political progress in the future. Also, it improved our awareness of different ongoing issues such as the Irish Language Act and climate change, which are topics that can be easily eclipsed by other issues but are of great relevance to young people today.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Alan from Ballyclare. Our next student, we just have one today representing Dominican College in North Belfast, and that is Lauren McFarlane. Lauren, do you want to go ahead?
Hi, yeah, I'm Lauren. We're Dominican College, Fort William. We're an all-girls Catholic school. We're located in North Belfast, and there's about 1,500 pupils. Yeah, we're a Catholic school, but we're not we have other religious backgrounds that do go to our school, but it is predominantly Catholic. And because of the Catholic background, I'd say that a majority of the students here do resonate with the Republican nationalist political standpoint. But we found that the programme was really enriching because we got living in the north of Ireland, our media that we consume is very British dominated, so we don't really get to hear a lot about the politics of the Republic and the things that go on in the Republic. So being able to talk to ministers from the south was really enriching because we were kind of able to transcend the tribal politics that we tend to fall into here in the north and kind of, like learn about issues that resonate with the whole of the island and how they affect the island. And I think it was really interesting as well to be able to see the opinions of, especially on like the constitutional question, the opinions of that are reflected in from like politicians down south and also from politicians from the opposite viewpoint up here. Like talking to Mike Nesbitt, I think that a lot of us were actually quite surprised at how like forward thinking and open to the idea of a discussion on a United Ireland that he actually was. And yeah, it was just good to be able to talk to a lot of different viewpoints and people who were quite high up in their parties and quite high up in government, especially politicians from the south. And speaking to Roger O'Gorman on issues like climate change and LGBT rights and like poverty and mental health and things like that, issues that transcend the issues of like the constitution and the issues of religion and background and sectarianism, and being able to just speak about things that affect all people on the island, regardless of their background or where they're from or the political identity that they find themselves falling into, was just really enriching. And yeah, I think we all just really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And our next two students are from Lutterellstown Community College in Dublin, and we have Kyle and Martina representing the school.
First of all, it's really nice to have gotten this opportunity with you, Minister. I'm just here to tell you a little bit about our school, and Martina will tell you a little bit about our overall experience with the programme. But Lutterellstown Community College is a mixed gender, multicultural, multi-faith secondary school. We've got over 850 students and 70 staff. The core beliefs of the school is kind of to promote diversity and tolerance and technological advancement. We all use iPads in our classroom, and we rely heavily on technology. And so that's been a really exciting opportunity for us as students to get to kind of be at the forefront of kind of the internet and technological age, I guess, as it's being called. And on the point of religious expression, I mean, we've got so many different, I think there's around 60 different cultural backgrounds in our school, which is really great, because I think not everyone has that opportunity to kind of experience everyone else's kind of individual belief systems. And as that's kind of a great aspect of our school. And we've been expanding over the last few years. I mean, we recently had our phase 2, which included this new sports hall and several new facilities. So that was really great. And in 2018, a Gael school called Colossian Tulkin was opened, which is one of the few secondary Gael schools in the area. And there's currently, I think, around 20 students in Colossian Tulkin, but the plans are to bring in around 40 new students next year. So it's been really exciting to get to see that grow, and hopefully that can become one of the leading Gael schools here in Dublin in the next few years. And kind of another aspect of our school that's quite exciting is we have our own autism specific unit called Glencree, which means heroes in Irish. And the kind of the aim of this unit is to kind of gently ease people on the autism spectrum into the sort of the general school body. And so that's been really great. So they get to kind of have classes in both sections of the school, and there are sort of state-of-the-art facilities there. And it's really great that in our school that we kind of, everyone's included, regardless of what challenges or difficulties that they may have to face. So I think not everyone can say that. And I think we have elevators for students who use wheelchairs, and we have braille available for students who may be blind. So we're trying to always adapt and always kind of show that everyone's welcome, regardless of who they are or what type of learning that they need. I'm just going to pass you on over to Martina, who has a few pieces of a few students from our school's experience with the program.
Yeah, so I'm going to read out some of the things that the people from our class said. We have that I would say that all around the North and South initiatives thus far was pretty good. We were able to ask different questions on a variety of current and important topics like Brexit, the environment, and COVID-19, to politicians who run the Irish government and represent the people, such as Leo Varadkar, Mike Nesbitt, and Roger O'Gorman. What surprised me was our interview with Mike Nesbitt. I found it quite interesting to listen to his views from a unionist perspective, as such views are quite uncommon in the South. Next year, I would like to see the North and South program to have more initiative within actual government buildings to get a real sense, perspectives of the functionings of our democracy. Also, I would appreciate it if more ideological questions and questions asking the overview of a politician's beliefs were more encouraged. And what I found most beneficial from the project is hearing different questions and answers from both the politicians and students that I may not personally agree with or have been exposed to, but still find value in hearing how they got to their place of thought. I think with the rise of sensationalist media and politicians who don't seem to know what they're saying, it was reassuring to hear cohesive arguments and reasoning. What I'd like to see next year is more dialogue between students. And I definitely agree with that. I think it would be good to have kind of like some kind of forum for the students of all the different schools to be able to communicate with, because I definitely think, speaking of our experiences in the North and the South, we do have a lot in common, and we also have a lot of differences. And I think being able to talk about those differences and those similarities would be very beneficial for everyone. But yeah, I also found the North and South initiative really good, and I don't think most people get such chances to speak with politicians, you know, face to face and ask them these kinds of questions. So I definitely think it was very, you know, it was very good to have that kind of experience, and I definitely would have loved for it to be in person, but online it was also really well organized, and I really did enjoy it. So
thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Martina. That's wonderful. So ministry, you can see sort of the engagement, even though, as Martina was saying, it's unfortunate that it wasn't face to face. But there's certainly, you can see future politicians in some of these presenters. So I just wondered, did you want to ask the students any questions, or do you have any thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, I suppose just as you've said yourself, Tracy, it's really that, I think what the students have said really speaks volumes about the success of the programme. They are the absolute best ambassadors for it, because they're telling us exactly what their experiences were. Just in terms of some of the points that were raised, you know, by Sinead and Alan, for example, I thought it was a very interesting point that Alan made about his surprise, we'll say, with Colm Eastwood, that it was a relaxed engagement with a politician, and that it was unscripted, and it was not what you would have anticipated or expected. And that's probably a poor reflection on the politicians now, that you would think that everything that we say is scripted. But I understand that that's the experience, because perhaps that's what we see on the media, or we see on, you know, television engagements and all of that. And therefore, I think it speaks to the very necessary importance, I suppose, of having the opportunity to engage on a one-to-one, on a personal basis, you know, with the electorate that you represent. And you know, I appreciate, and others have said, you know, that it hasn't been possible this year, it being a virtual event, but it was better to have a virtual event than not to have the event. And I think we'd probably all agree on that. But I think there's a, you know, there's a lesson, I think, for all politicians in the point that Alan made about, you know, needing to see politicians on a more relaxed and a more personal level, and all of that. I thought it was interesting as well, as was the point that was made by a number of speakers, and I think Sinead made it as well, that they were surprised by the views of some politicians. So, for example, some people mentioned Mike Nesbitt, and I think, isn't that very interesting that, you know, when you get to meet someone, or at least have an engagement with someone, your original opinion can be very, very different. And again, that speaks to, I think, the importance of us engaging all the more, engaging more freely and more willingly, and being prepared to do it. You know, sometimes we can close ourselves off into boxes, you know, but the more outward thinking we are, the more engaged we are with each other, then the more, I suppose, barriers that we would perceive that are there, then the more easily they are that they can be broken down. Just in terms of Alan and Sarah, then again, I very interesting. Could I say that there was a great commonality amongst the speakers, that you were all very proud of the schools that you represent. And I think that speaks volumes, you know, about the schools and about the staff who work with you, and I want to acknowledge that. You particularly, both of you referenced as well, you know, the rural school, which very, very important part of the education sector. Not all schools are urban. I come from a rural background myself, and I think that's very important, that the perspective of the rural school is in the mix as well. And again, as you said, you know, that you appreciated the opportunity to voice your opinion. And just on that one, I think maybe it's because I come from a teaching background myself. I am very keen always that the voice of the young person would be at the center of the education sector. And so, for example, those of you that would be familiar with it, you know, even in terms of how we have had to reimagine, if you like, our final state exams, you know, our legal certificate exams this year. And I suppose everything that we did through the COVID environment, we have what we would call the partners in education, and the partners in education would be represented by, we say, the teaching unions, the managerial bodies, the parents, but very much so at the center of that, and I'm very proud to say that it was very successful in this past year, has been the student voice. And students have been involved in every step of the way in terms of, you know, the decisions we make in terms of how to operate the schools in the COVID environment, the decisions that we made in terms of delivering a leaving certificate this year, which also includes a system we call accredited grades. But the students were at the forefront of it. And just as you had both referenced, you know, your appreciation of your voice being heard, I think it is not before time that the voice of the student is at the heart of all the decisions that are being made in the education sector and beyond the education sector in the world of politics as well. Just in terms of Lauren's views and the opinions she expressed, again, that she found it so interesting that there were so many different views and so many different thoughts and so many different opinions. And I think you made a great point, Lauren, when you said that all of the issues, though, impacted on each one of us, irrespective of our background, irrespective of our gender, irrespective of our beliefs or whatever. So COVID has impacted on all of us. Mental health issues impact on all of us. You know, whatever issues we're discussing, they impact on each of us. So therefore, we must find, I suppose, a commonality moving forward as to how to address those different topics. And I think you really hit the nail on the head in terms of the value of an engagement like this, where we recognize, well, I might think differently to somebody, but they actually have a similar experience in the world as my experience. So we need to come together. And again, Kyle and Martina, just in terms of the work in Luttrellstown, again, great advocates for your school, very much so at the cutting edge of all technology. So I'm going to assume that the whole remote learning experience did not pose a challenge. But again, I think you were able to hold up a wonderful mirror to, not in every respect, but in many respects, how schools by their nature are very inclusive. And particularly, Kyle, you mentioned, for example, you have students of different backgrounds, you have students with different abilities and particular challenges, whether it's autism or you made reference to Braille, or you've male, you've female, different religious experiences, so on and so forth. And yet everybody exists within the one school environment. And I think that holds up a wonderful mirror to what we achieve in our schools, what we expect to be achieved in our schools. And you would ask yourself, really, why that can't be achieved in wider society as well. So we succeed in doing that in a lesser and a greater degree in various schools, but I think it's a wonderful mirror really of what society can achieve as well. Just Martina's point about, you know, getting the opportunity to ask the questions. I suppose, again, maybe coming from the teaching background, I believe that's the greatest gift of all. Getting the opportunity to ask the question, that's one thing. But having the confidence to ask the question is probably even as important. I think sometimes maybe in school, you know, we can sit back and we can, you know, let the information roll and it can go over our heads, and there can be fault on all sides for that. But the more proactive you are, the more actively engaged you are, then, you know, the better it is for everybody within the class environment, but the better it is for society too. And it's very clear that I can see from all of your engagement that you have gained enormous confidence in terms of, you know, asking questions, not being afraid to put across a view or an opinion that might not be shared with everybody else that's in the room, but having the confidence to say, well, this is what I think, but to do it in a manner that is respectful, that is encouraging of other opinions, and also saying, you know, maybe there's a chance that I can actually learn from a different opinion, and maybe my own opinion can be enhanced or broadened or whatever. So it has really been, you know, from what I can see, from what you're telling me, a very positive, you know, learning experience for you. And again, I appreciate the point that you made, Martina, that you would hope that, you know, next year going forward, there would be the opportunity, you know, to visit the particular buildings like that, you know, you would have an opportunity to meet people probably in their own setup and everything else. And I think that's very worthwhile as well. It's been the disadvantage of the virtual world, but I know that the plans going forward would be very much so for that kind of engagement, and that it would be very personal and very much one-to-one and all of that. And there's a great gift in that as well. So just to say to you, I am hugely impressed with the manner in which you engaged, the manner in which you allowed your minds to be opened to hear different opinions and to challenge different opinions, and then, you know, maybe stick with your own, or maybe elaborate upon your own, or maybe add to them or whatever. So I think that's great learning, and I think it's a learning that obviously has been rooted in your classrooms, but it has gone beyond that into other classrooms and into other lives and into other perspectives. So well done to you. You're very positive ambassadors for this program, and you can be very proud of all that you've achieved. So thank you. Appreciate having the opportunity to hear and benefit from your learning. Thank you, Minister. And I just ask the students if they want to respond. Do you want to respond to the Minister? Any students? You can. There's a reaction tab there. You can just put up your hand, and they'll be able to say something. But just if their students are doing that while they're doing that, I think, yeah, one of the gifts of allowing them to be online has been this kind of engagement, and maybe I suppose what we saw with Colin Eastwood, with some of the students, that was the kind of the more humanity, you know, the human approach. And I suppose, you know, even astonished that he was, you know, he didn't have his jacket on, he was relaxed, he was sitting in his chair, he had like the, you know, kids pictures in the background, and it was just, you know, really it kind of made the students relax as well. And I think that's what that was wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. So I see Sinead and Alan from Loretto raise their hands. Don't be putting too much pressure on the Minister here. Thank you very much, Trace. Appreciate that very much. Sinead and Alan, go ahead.
One issue we wanted to raise actually was the current school system. The experience of online learning has shown that the current method may not be applicable for situations such as the current pandemic. Personally, the idea in our classes group discussion was brought up about continuous assessments throughout the year instead of one big dependent exam like the Leaving Cert. The results of the 2 years of calculated grade should be an insight to how grading and teaching should possibly change in the future.
I think what the Minister was saying there, as well as the other students, about going and seeing the government buildings maybe next year when COVID's over, but it'll be great to get some government funding to do, considering we're all the way up.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Well, look, in relation to the first question, in terms of how we will, if you like, reimagine the senior cycle going forward, and it would be a shame not to learn, I suppose, from the lessons of COVID and how we did have to reimagine in this short space of time. But equally so, just to say that there is a current work being done as regards senior cycle review, and that includes everything from, we'll say, transition year, leaving LCVP, leaving certificate applied, and the established leaving certificate as we would experience it. And we'll say the points you raised there about, you know, continuous assessment and the benefit of all of that, that will all form part of this review. There will also be, you specifically referenced, we'll say, the accredited grades, and I suppose the experience of 2 years of doing that. All of that will form part of, I suppose, our deliberations and our discussions going forward as to, there's much that is positive and there is much that is right about the senior cycle as we know it. But there's also much that can be, I suppose, improved upon or added to, so that it is suitable for students in the 21st century, and very much so that it is suitable for all students there must be an acknowledgement that, it is our responsibility to make sure that we offer programs that meet the needs of different students and, different interests or different capacities or whatever. So that body of work, the review, the advisory review in relation to that is due out shortly. And after that, then there will be consultation with the widest possible interest groups and partners in education, as I referenced earlier. And that very much so includes parents, students, teachers, management bodies, everyone really, because I think that the wider the consultation, and indeed wider society, the wider the consultation, the more ownership there can be. And that's a particular, I suppose, point that I'd like to make. When there are initiatives being thrown out for consultation, sometimes we see it being advertised and we don't necessarily engage. But I think you have learned from your engagement that the more you engage in a process, then the more your voice and your opinion is at the centre of it. And again, particularly, I'm going to say that worked really, really well for us here in terms of, we'll say, all that we achieved during COVID with the involvement of students. And I'd like to think that in terms of senior cycle review, which is, as I say, happening now, that the engagement would come from students as well. Your best place to offer the opinions, you're in the classrooms, you know what's working, and you know, more to the point, what you'd like to see differently. So I absolutely would, look forward to that engagement. And just in terms of the visits north-south and supporting all that, and the money, which is very, very important. Can I say, will you leave that one with me, and I shall talk to the ministers with responsibility for the money. But I do think that, even from our point of view and how we support this programme in the Department of Education, we're very, very positively disposed to continue to support this programme. It's an excellent programme. So just to say, Alan, I don't think the money will be the thing that will hold us back.
Thank you, Liz. You're very good. Joshua and Martina have just a quick question. I know you have to head away shortly, but so Joshua, do you want to keep your question short? So you're from Lough Town, as is Martina, isn't that right?
Yeah. I was just wondering specifically on the basis of the Leaving Cert, if what exactly are you planning, like in the Department of Education, in terms of maybe changing it to be more like a continuous assessment?
Just to be fair, and I would have to be very fair about this, Joshua, and say that what is currently being done is that there will be a report brought to me, okay, from the National Council for Curricular Assessment, who have done a report, and they will bring that report to me, and I will share that report, their thoughts and their opinions, and the consequence of their deliberations with various partners in education. I will share their findings with what I have called the partners in education: parents, the students, the teachers, the managerial bodies, everyone. And we will work through some of the thoughts and opinions that are in that until we find, I suppose, a way forward, or a reimagining, if you like, of senior cycle. That might well include many of the points that you raised, that might well include many of the aspects of the course that is still in existence, but also might say, well, actually, we need to bring in new elements, or we need to change A, B, and C. But it's very much a work in progress, and the final document will only be put together, if you like, after there has been engagement from everybody. So it's a bit early for me to say what I would think will be in it. I actually haven't seen the initial report yet, but that is due to come to me in the next number of weeks. And as I say, that document then will go out for consultation with everyone. And so I would really, really love for people like yourself and all of your fellow students here, and as I say, the widest possible engagement on this, because this will probably chart, certainly for the next long number of years, what senior cycle will look like in our schools.
Thank you, Minister. And Martina, I'll give you the final word. Give the ladies the final word.
Yeah, no, I had my question's been probably more or less answered now. I just had a question about the extent to which students will be involved in the consultation of the senior cycle, because I've been an activist for educational kind of reform for a while now. So I was hoping the case will be that, students will be involved, but that has been answered. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I do want to say the Union of Secondary School Students have been just phenomenal ambassadors for second level students throughout this COVID-19 process. They sit at the table, although usually it's a virtual table, to be quite honest, but they are there, and on the occasion when we can meet on, you know, and it can be in-person meetings, they are there as well. They are very much integral to the process. That's a new innovation in education. It is not before its time. I think I say it consistently that at the center of all that we do must be the students that we serve. And I believe that if we truly believe that, well, then they have to be at the center of the decision-making process as well. So I'm very proud to say that since I've become minister, they have very much so been at the center of all that we've done. And I certainly hope that that will continue into the future as well. So thanks very much for that question. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks, Minister, for taking those off the cuff as well. Yes, it's wonderful. But you can see the engagement, you can see the crossover, what some of the wonderful things that have come, but also that the missing out on the physical contact with each other, the visiting Donegal, or the Donegal visits to Dáil Éireann. I know Joe McHugh is a great fan of the programme, and he's been very helpful, and we're grateful to him. But just wanted to thank you for your time and for listening as well, and also to the students, of course, and their teachers who, you know, these are extracurricular events, and they really put their whole heart into it in a time when everything is screen based, you know, so we're very grateful to them, grateful to my colleagues as well in Politics in Action and the Glencree Centre for Reconciliation. And in particular, I'd like to thank our funders, the Reconciliation Fund for the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and also which is supported by the Department of Education. So we're really grateful, and we look forward to continuing our work together, and hopefully see you in September.
Please God. Absolutely, I look forward to that. And again, just to say in conclusion, thank you to each one of you for the personal contribution that you've made to the success of this program. And you know, you've given your time, and you've given your talent, and you've given your wisdom, and that has enhanced this program hugely. And perhaps most especially to thank you for, I suppose, showing really best practice and example in terms of what respectful and positive and friendly collaboration and cooperation can achieve. So thank you for that. And I very much so enjoyed having the opportunity to meet with you this afternoon. And thank you as well, Trace. Thank you.
And enjoy the summer.
Indeed.